Good old nostalgia. Don't we love that feeling when something can just take you back to a simpler time? Well, Nintendo does too. And they are the top dogs when it comes to selling pieces of your childhood back to you with a fresh coat of paint over it. In fact, we've come to expect Nintendo to release a new Zelda remake in between new titles for some years now. And most recently, we got Link's Awakening on the Switch. And man, it was beautiful. It's got me wondering which title we can expect to be remade next. So I'm going to go through my top 5 picks for the next remake. Let's get into it right now at Hyrule Fantasy. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda, the game that started it all. The original Legend of Zelda remains an all-time classic, not just in the Zelda franchise, but to the entire gaming world. It was a pioneer in some gaming designs and concepts that changed the face of gaming and are still used today. When I think of the original Zelda, I remember when I was a kid, sitting around the TV with friends, taking turns, sharing secrets we had found with each other, and getting lost in Hyrule for hours at a time. Since then, Zelda has grown into something more, something monumental. A franchise with almost 20 games in the main series, generating several spin-offs, character cameos, as well as being the inspiration for so many other games. But there's a whole generation of Zelda fans that missed out on the 8-bit era and never got to enjoy that experience. Sure, Nintendo has made it playable on the Switch with an online membership, but last year Link's Awakening got a full-on remake with enhanced graphics, updated design and gameplay, and new features, and man, it's great. I think old and new Zelda fans alike deserve to have a similar experience with The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo even intended to long ago, but the project eventually turned into the Oracle games. And it's a good thing because we got 2 original solid Zelda games, and a remake today would be much better realized compared to what they could do 20 years ago. So The Legend of Zelda remake has been waiting for its day for a long time. Maybe it won't be waiting much longer. Number 4, Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask, a sequel to Ocarina of Time that many consider to be an oddball due to its dark themes and its unique gameplay mechanics. At the time, there were many fans that were turned off by the game's 3-day cycle time limit, but in time, it grew its own cult following and became revered as one of the greatest Zeldas of all time. Well, I know what you're thinking. Majora's Mask had a remake for the 3DS only 5 years ago, but hear me out. Majora's Mask for a time was my all-time favorite Zelda game. I loved the 3-day time limit, how all the characters had their own personal world, and the dark and eerie feelings you felt when playing this game. And when Nintendo released their remake, they changed certain aspects that altered the whole vibe that fueled the heart of the experience. Mainly, the way you can save the game anytime you want. Now, there's much more that was changed, but I could make a whole video on the differences between the original and the 3DS remake. Maybe that's for another day. But to be able to play Majora's Mask on the Switch, a version that stayed true to the original concept, would be a dream come true. Majora's Mask was the first video game that really made me feel things. Its mature and tragic storytelling, and how well it's executed, is rare in a video game. It may not be as long or have tons of dungeons like your traditional Zelda game, but what it lacks in its main adventure, it makes up for in so many side quests. The characters feel real, you can get so invested in the world, it makes their world feel alive. I haven't been able to experience that feeling in any other Zelda game. Majora's Mask is truly unique and has heart, and deserves a more accurate, updated remake. Three, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Zelda 2, the second and most forgotten entry in the franchise. This game is generally referred to as the black sheep of the franchise due to its completely different gameplay style. Before 3D Zelda, and even after, the top-down perspective was Zelda's consistent formula. But back then, there was no formula, and Zelda 2 took a different approach, making the game more of a side-scrolling action-adventure game with RPG elements. And contrary to popular opinion, I love Zelda 2. Maybe I have a thing for the oddball games that are unpopular, but it is one of my favorites. And even though it's unheard of by many, it introduced many features that would become series staples, like magic and a magic meter, linear game design, characters you can speak to, towns or settlements. And did you know the sages in Ocarina of Time were named after the towns in Zelda 2? Which I thought was interesting and clever, because it's as if the towns were named after important sages since Ocarina of Time was a prequel. And it was before Nintendo even cared about continuity, or the concept of a timeline. Anyway, I know there are certain aspects of this game that make it less playable, like the difficulty, the lives counter, how every time you get a game over you have to start all the way back at the beginning, and Ganon laughs in your face. But if Nintendo gave us a remake, they could work out some of the kinks, and add new features like they always do. It would make playing this game an enjoyable experience to the fans who used to like it, and even to those who previously disliked it. Number 2, the Minish Cap. The Minish Cap is one of the few Zelda games I didn't play till years after it released. And when I finally did, I wondered how I could have missed out playing such a good game. It's shorter than most Zelda games, but it had a lot of unique ideas, not to mention a great soundtrack. The concept of being able to shrink down to the size of a bug, making irrelevant details or push over enemies into troublesome obstacles to overcome, was fun and made for some unique puzzle solving. And when you shrink down, you're introduced to a whole miniature world and a miniature race of people called the Bakori, or the Minish as they like to be called, and only children can see them. I just always liked this concept. I thought it was really cool when I thought there was going to be a version of them in Breath of the Wild. It never happened, but who knows, maybe in the sequel. And the game uses the classic top-down perspective and uses an art style that looks like a mix between A Link to the Past and The Wind Waker. And even though the game still looks colorful and bright and has great animation, especially for a Game Boy Advance, I can imagine what a makeover on the Switch would look like. I'm sure Nintendo would update the way the item switch screen worked, like they did with the Link's Awakening remake, and that was the only thing about this game that annoyed me. All in all, the Minish Cap is a solid Zelda title, and that's why it's my number 2 candidate for the next Zelda remake. Number 1. Oracle of Ages and Seasons. The Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Okay, I know this is technically 2 games, but they were released simultaneously, meant to be played back to back, and together completed, you were able to unlock the secret overall ending. So we're going to treat them as one game, as I'm sure Nintendo would. These games to me stand out as unique, innovative, and I'd probably put more hours into these 2 games than any other handheld Zelda title. And the games are some of the few in the Zelda franchise that take place somewhere other than Hyrule. So you get to explore the land of Labrina and Holodrim, which have all new locations, towns, histories, races, and villains. They also contain some cool features like animal buddies and rings that give you special stat boosts that are exclusive to these games. And the dungeons in this game are honestly the most challenging and satisfying out of any 2D Zeldas I've ever played, which is all of them. They each have their own individual themes as well. For example, Ages involves time travel, and the game focuses on puzzle solving for its main obstacle. And in Seasons, you can change which season it is to solve problems in advance, while the game is more combat oriented. So you get the best of both worlds. And between the two, there are 16 dungeons to explore and conquer. That's one hell of a Zelda adventure. And with updated graphics and gameplay, this would be one epic remake. The Oracle games, to me, are 2 of the most solid, underrated Zelda games, and in my opinion, the most deserving of the next Zelda remake. And that was my top picks for the next Zelda remakes. Thanks for watching. If your favorite retro Zelda game didn't make the list, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video or want more Zelda content. See you later.